How is it going, everyone? We gotta go over some very, very unfortunate news coming from PlayStation Studios as they are canceling multiple games and reevaluating operations. Obviously, PlayStation had the MO for a little while that they were gonna adjust their game plan as far as the games that they were putting out. A very big emphasis on live service games had been had, and it looks like that isn't panning out exactly to plan. Sony Interactive Entertainment will lay off about 900 employees across the globe, and that is about 8% of its total workforce, the company officially announced. London Studio, which was developing an online cooperative combat game set in fantasy London for PlayStation 5, will also close in its entirety as a result of the layoffs. Major divisions affected by the layoffs include Insomniac Games, Naughty Dog, Technology, Creative, and Support Teams, Guerrilla Games, Firesprite, and London Studios are all facing layoffs as well. Guerrilla Games and Firesprite are facing reductions. London Studio is facing closure. If you look at all of those studios, we know that the majority of them had some sort of live service project in the works. And Naughty Dog had a live service project in the works. We know that Guerrilla obviously did, Firesprite did, and London Studio did, and London Studio is closing down entirely. And there was an update that dropped from Jason Schreier, Bloomberg's Jason Schreier. A Twisted Metal live service game that was in development on Firesprite has been canceled as a part of the layoffs. The game was reportedly in early development and not yet greenlit. It was noted in a blog post, "These are incredibly talented people who have been part of our success, and we are very grateful for their contributions," Sony Interactive CEO and President Jim Ryan noted. However, the industry has changed immensely, and we need to future-ready ourselves to set the business up for what lies ahead. We need to deliver on expectations from developers and gamers and continue to propel future technology in gaming. So we took a step back to ensure we are set up to continue bringing the best gaming experiences to the community. So obviously a lot to access, and there's a lengthy message from Jim Ryan, an email that was noted, the full email from Ryan, and a message from PlayStation Studios head Herman Hulst on the layoffs. I'll read a little bit of the email from Jim Ryan, and then we'll read some of Herman Hulst's statement as well. "I want to be as transparent as possible," this is from Jim Ryan, "with you, our partners, and our community about what this means. We envision reducing our headcount by about 900 people, or about 8% of our current workforce. There will be impact for employees across all of Sony Interactive Entertainment regions, Americas, EMEA, Japan, and APAC. Several PlayStation studios are affected. I know that receiving this news will be hard and unsettling, and you are wondering what this means for you. Timelines and procedures for how to approach this will vary based on your location due to local laws and regulations. For those of you in the US, all impacted employees will be notified today. In the UK, it is proposed that PlayStation Studios London Studio will close in its entirety, that there will be reductions in Firesprite, and there will be reductions in various functions across SIE in the UK. The proposed changes mean that we will encounter a period of collective consultation before any final decisions are taken. All employees who are a part of the collective consultation will be made aware of the next steps today. In Japan, we will implement a next career support program. Details will be communicated separately. In other countries, we will begin conversations with those who are potentially at risk or impacted as a result of this proposed course of action. For those who will be leaving SIE, you are leaving this company with our deepest respect and appreciation for all your efforts during your tenure. For those who will be staying at SIE, we will be saying goodbye to friends and colleagues that we cherish during this process, and this will be painful. Your resilience, sensitivity, and adaptiveness will be critical in the weeks and months to come." So, obviously, not good news. That is from Jim Ryan, and a message from Herman Hulst. It's a lengthy message, so I'll read some of it. "These decisions have been extremely difficult, but they are necessary, and I think it's important to be transparent. The US-based studios and groups impacted by a reduction in workforce are Insomniac, Naughty Dog, as well as our technology, creative, and support teams. In UK and Europe, again, you have PlayStation Studios' London Studio closing in entirety. There will also be reductions in Guerrilla and Firesprite. These are in addition to some smaller reductions in other teams across PlayStation Studios. Our goal at PlayStation Studios has always been to make the best games for PlayStation fans, and our global community of studios represents some of the most creative and talented teams within the gaming industry. PlayStation 5 is in its 4th year, and we are at a stage where we need to step back and look at what our business needs. At the same time, our industry has experienced continuing and fundamental change which affects how we all create and play games. Delivering immersive, narrative-driven stories that PlayStation Studios is known for at that quality bar that we aspire to requires a reevaluation of how we operate. Delivering and sustaining social online experiences, allowing PlayStation gamers to explore our worlds in different ways, as well as launching games on additional devices such as PC and mobile requires a different approach and different resources. To take these challenges, PlayStation Studios had to grow. We have brought brilliant and successful studios into our family. We have invested in new technology and partnerships. We have recruited talent from across our industry and beyond. But growth itself is not an ambition. PlayStation Studios is committed to continually discovering ways to work together, collaborating, and combining our efforts to ensure that we are able to craft games that push the boundaries of play and deliver what you expect from us. We looked at our studios and our portfolio, evaluating projects in various stages of development, and have decided that some of these projects will not move forward. I want to be clear that the decision to stop working on these projects is not a reflection on the talent or the passion of our team members. Okay, so there's a little bit more to that message, but I think you guys get the gist of all of it. First of all, obvious condolences to everyone that is affected. The gravitas of this many layoffs is just absolutely awful to hear about, and this has been a reoccurring theme in gaming for the last year and a half. As game budgets are rising, as games are getting bigger and bigger, and a lot of publishers did go into heavy manpower to produce these live service games. They're not going to outright say that live service games are the reason that they're shutting down a lot of these studios, but look at the games and the studios that are affected. You've got the Twisted Metal live service project, canceled. It never got greenlit, but it was in early design, canceled. London Studio, shutting down. They were working on an online co-op combat game. That is no longer going to happen. Naughty Dog was an affected studio as well, and then Guerrilla Games, we know that they were working on live service titles. I'm sure that there are other factors that come into play with something like this, but everybody saw this coming in terms of live service games. They were gonna go one of two ways. You're not gonna have a situation where every game develops along smoothly. This is a transition process if you want to create these games, and even the games that are greenlit, a lot of them are not gonna see an immense amount of success. We talk about Helldivers 2 a lot. Helldivers 2 is great, but not every game is gonna be Helldivers 2, and Helldivers 2 was a game that didn't change its core principles just to become a live service experience. That's not what happened, and I think for a lot of other developers and a lot of other studios, you were implementing live service right out of the gate, and you were focusing so much on that. We know that Last of Us got canceled. We know Last of Us Factions, that is. We know that got canceled. Twisted Metal has now been canceled. And also, you have London Studio, an entire studio shutting down, and their co-op title canceled as well. Who knows if that co-op game was supposed to be a live service game? I would have to imagine that if PlayStation is greenlighting a multiplayer-centric title and it's emphasized to be a co-op game, it was scheduled to be live service. That's what I would assume. Again, I'm sure there are other factors in play, but this is something that ultimately, if PlayStation was going to go heavy into a live service route, we all knew that there were going to be consequences if the games weren't going to pop off, and the layoffs are absolutely terrible, and I feel like it's a major reason why we're not going to see any major PlayStation franchise getting game releases this year. A lot of the workforce, they were tasked to do these live service projects. A large portion of Naughty Dog, a large portion of Firespray, London Studios, they're all working on these live service games, and if they're not even going to see the light of day, well, that is going to halt their development of other titles if they're concurrently developing other games, which I imagine Naughty Dog, Guerrilla Games, they're all doing that. I think a lot of people will be like, wow, serves them right for going this heavy into live service, and we all know what the game is. So many publishers have gone down this route. Look at Ubisoft. They just, look, Helldivers 2, great. We just had the release of Skull and Bones. We just had the release of Suicide Squad. For every Helldivers 2, you will get countless, and I am saying countless games that come out and don't do well, that don't meet financial quote-unquote expectations, because I get what the game plan is. Throw enough crap at the wall and hopefully something sticks, and if you have 1 out of 5 games stick, guess what? That's a game that you can monetize for years and years, and that gravy train is so attractive. I understand what the game plan is. It's just that they have to realize when they're going down this business structure, ultimately, a lot of games are gonna fail. Ultimately, some games are not even gonna get greenlit, as we saw with the Twisted Metal live service game. And again, I'm not meaning to crap on live service games in its entirety. I've already said before, live service inherently doesn't mean it's bad. I think that's what a lot of people think. There are a lot of titles that are live service and implemented in a great way. However, when you're thinking about that gravy train right at the start of development, and that's coming from the higher-ups, they want this monetization implemented into those games, and then developers are tasked into implementing it in a way that they see fit. Maybe that's not what a Rocksteady ultimately wanted to do, but Warner Brothers, if they're telling them, hey, we need these games to be monetized, we need to make money on the back end, then that's what they're gonna work with, and ultimately, you're either gonna see games get canceled mid-development, or a lot of games are gonna come out and they're not gonna do well. Skull and Bones and Suicide Squad, two glaring recent examples of this. And I don't mean to crap all over Sony, I get it. They went down this game plan. Pretty much every other publisher went down this game plan as well. Square Enix, Ubisoft, EA, so on and so forth. And they've all had some live service games pop off. And they've had some live service games that have become a big core part of their business. But that is not going to be the case across the board. You're not going to get 5 studios dropping bangers of live service games. It's just unrealistic to think about it. And I don't even think Sony was thinking that. I think they knew going into it, we don't need every game to turn out well. We don't need every game to even see the light of day. We just need a couple. We just need 3 or 4 of these games to pop off and really generate a lot of concurrent revenue for us and residual revenue. I would rather Sony, obviously from a selfish standpoint, focus on their single-player games, focus on what they're good at. You want to do a multiplayer game? Do a Killzone 2 remaster for me, selfishly, and charge $60 for it, put it on PC, and sell 3 million copies day one. I think Sony should be focusing on what the people want. And you can have live service games here and there. Look at Helldivers 2, but Helldivers 2, I don't believe, fundamentally restructured what it was going to be to adopt this live service model and change its core principles, and I think a lot of developers are tasked to do that. But let me know what you guys think. Obviously, at the heart of it all, our condolences to the 900 employees that are going to be affected. 8% of the total workforce. That's a gigantic, gigantic number and absolutely devastating news. Hopefully they find their footing, and this is as great as 2024 has been from a gaming standpoint. Again, flops like Suicide Squad and Skull and Bones aside, like, you're talking about quality level with games like Grand Blue, Like a Dragon, Persona 3, Helldivers 2 recently coming out, Pal World, Enshrouded, so on and so forth. Just so many big games have been doing really, really well. A theme that's been going on for the last year and a half of these layoffs, of these studio closures. You saw it with games like Immortals of Aveum, Callisto Protocol, these big budget titles that ultimately do not make a return on their investment. And it's not just live service games, like these $200+ million games that don't sell all too well and then ultimately have to shut down. That's unfortunate as well. So it's not just to harp on live service games. I just do believe this was a big reason for a lot of these closures. And again, I'm sure there were other elements involved, and I don't mean to be I don't mean to make this video a gigantic crap fest on live service titles, because I've been saying over and over again, I do think live service games have a place in the market. It's just when you go so heavy into it and that's your game plan for a while, ultimately that's gonna bear issues. And I think they were expecting that. Maybe not to this level, but I do think they were expecting it to an extent that not every game was going to pop off. But that'll do it for me. Again, condolences to the 900 employees that are affected. That is really the heart of the issue and just super unfortunate news. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.